Part 117. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 1162. Miss Yangting felt a little sad when she heard Zhou Zhan calling Lily's name. In fact, Fu Ying is a well-known figure in the school in his class, but Zhou Zhan is not much different. He has good grades and is good at basketball. When he entered high school, he was recruited by the school basketball team. He is also a very eye-catching handsome guy. At the beginning of the first year of high school, he was the one who carried things to the dormitory for Li Beihe. At that time, Miss Yangting thought he was Li Beihe's boyfriend and was a little envious of her. Later, she learned from Li Beihe that Zhou Zhan was only with her childhood sweethearts who grew up together. Everyone in the classroom was reviewing, and Lily didn't want people to watch when Zhou Zhan called her name again. She closed the book first, stood up, and prepared to leave the classroom. Fu Ying also walked towards the back of the classroom. He was too tall and sat in the back row of the classroom. There were many students in the grade 1 class, and the classroom was extremely full of desks. Although there was an aisle, but if two people passed together, it would seem a bit crowded. Lily turned sideways and waited for him to leave her side. When he passed by, Lily faced him face to face, and the shadow of his body enveloped her, as if her whole body was like being surrounded by his aura. The faint smell of lemon soap came from Fu Ying's body, which was fresh and pleasant. When he passed by, Lily ran out of the classroom. When Zhou Zhan saw her coming out, he reached out and wanted to pull her, but Lily stepped aside and stepped aside. The original owner did not want to fall in love with Zhou Zhan again. Although the two had a brief moment of sweetness at that time, it was more because of the painful feelings that the mismatch of personalities between the two brought to each other. In fact, one of the worst feelings the original owner had in his life was the depression he felt in the later stages of his relationship with Zhou Zhan. The two were considered childhood sweethearts when they were young. When I was young and ignorant, I played the game of playing house with the bride and groom. It was not until I entered junior high school that the relationship between men and women gradually became more estranged. Zhou Zhan no longer called Li Beihe my daughter-in-law, but her first name and last name. She. As if this could express his alienation from Li Beihe. Although they were classmates in the third year of junior high school, they had very little time to talk alone. Seeing that he reached out to pull Lily, but she dodged, the look on Zhou Zhan's face suddenly became a little sad. "What are you doing? My dad told me to take good care of you. I'm here to see you. Are you okay?" When the young man spoke, his cheeks turned a little red, and his hair was soaked with sweat, and the strands were stuck together. He deliberately finished his words in a rough voice, and looked down at Lily's silent expression. A soft and sweet feeling came to my heart. He is 1 year older than Li Beihe, and he has grown up with her. His facial features have long been familiar to him, but at this time, Zhou Zhan did not dare to look directly into her eyes. He was a head taller than Li Beihe, and saw her standing in front of him obediently, exactly the same as when she was a child, from his perspective. You can see Lily's slap-like face, her pink cheeks as white as dough, her long, smooth black hair tied into a ponytail, and the few strands of disobedient hair that she had pinned up with black steel clips. Exposing his small ears, Zhou Zhan felt his cheeks getting hot. He didn't dare to look any more for a while, turned his head away, and asked in a low voice, "Why don't you call home?" "Uncle Li is worried, my dad asked me to ask." Lily made no sound. He asked again, "Is the money enough to spend?" Lily nodded. He seemed a little anxious. "Why don't you say anything?" He stretched out his hand to pull Lily's arm again. Even through her shirt, the girl's arm could feel the smooth touch like powder. It is different from the hardness of boys, it is as soft as cotton. Zhou Zhan pinched it once and felt it felt good. He couldn't help but pinch it twice more. Lily struggled, and then he seemed to have come back to his senses. He let go of her hand as if she was electrocuted, and her cheeks were as red as a monkey's butt. You should call your parents anyway. I have to leave. I'm going to be in such trouble. After saying this, Joe Jean turned around and ran in panic. When he turned the corner and went downstairs, he only heard the sound of the basketball falling on the ground, as if it had rolled down the stairs. He cursed twice, and the sound of rapid footsteps sounded, and gradually the people ran away. When they entered the classroom again, many people looked at Lily. After entering high school, although not many people fall in love in school, there are still some. But the original owner was pretty, and if she fell in love, she would be very eye-catching, especially Joe Jean, who had a good reputation among high school students. When she returned to her seat, Miss Yangting didn't want to talk at first, but now she couldn't bear it. She paused. Are you dating Joe Jean? She was half curious and half sour at the moment. It's not that she likes Joe Jean that much. A girl of 15 or 16 years old will always have a subtle sour feeling similar to that of an idol marrying someone else when the outstanding member of the opposite sex already belongs to someone else. Lily glanced at her and shook her head. I told you, he and I are just neighbors. My dad and his dad are colleagues and have been friends for more than 10 years. How is that possible? If he is not a boyfriend and girlfriend, and he is still holding your hand, this is too intimate. Miss Yangting curled her lips, and Lily looked at her seriously. What is my relationship with him? None of your business. She didn't ask in an angry tone, but was very calm, as if she was telling a problem very calmly. Miss Yangting's face suddenly turned red and hot. She glanced at her bitterly and put her hand on the table. As soon as I lay down, my face was buried in it. Lily was a little speechless. She really felt that this matter had nothing to do with Miss Yangting. Miss Yangting's eagerness to know the result was crossing the line too much. The two were not close friends, they just met now. She was just a new classmate for a month. She had already explained it to her, but she didn't believe it. If she had to ask her a satisfactory answer, it would be better for her to think whatever she wanted in her heart. This evening's self-study class ended with Miss Yangting lying on the table crying all night. When she went back to the dormitory, she ignored Lily and her eye circles were a little red. She was obviously really uncomfortable. She was also unusually silent in the dormitory at night. The next day, she packed up her books and other things and wanted to move, but there were only so many places in the classroom. Many people and classmates she got along with had already sat together, and no one changed seats without the class teacher's request. Exchange with her. Lily watched Miss Yangting pack her books, put them in her pockets, and stood up. Give me a moment. She didn't even look at Lily's face. She was still studying early at this moment, her classmates were all there, and everyone was quiet. While reading, Miss Yangting's voice startled everyone. Many people turned to look. Lily stood up and let Miss Yangting pass. There was only one free seat in the class, which was where Fuying sat. On weekdays, no one would dare to sit down. His personality was not enthusiastic, and he was not friendly to his classmates. Instead, he was as arrogant and cold as a prince. Miss Yangting would have never dared to sit next to him before. But now she thought about it all night and decided to change places. Although she was actually a little apprehensive when she came over with the things, when she walked to Fuying, Miss Yangting still stammered, I will sit here for 2 days temporarily and won't disturb you. Anyway, the monthly exam will be in 2 days, and the teacher will change the seats after the exam. She started to speak, and without saying a word, Fuying suddenly covered the book that was originally spread out on the table and took her things out of the drawer. He took it out, stood up, kicked the chair away, and walked directly to where Miss Yangting was sitting before. When he stood next to Lily, he said, sit in a little bit. This kind of behavior was more embarrassing than ignoring Miss Yangting. She was stiff and tears were about to roll out of her eyes. Lily packed her things and sat down at Mi Xiangting's seat. Fu Ying sat down. When she turned her head and looked back, Mi Xiangting had already sat in the seat that was vacant before Fu Ying, lying on the table and crying silently again. To be honest, this kind of situation is really tragic for a girl. She should feel very pity, but for some reason, this situation is inexplicably joyful. Lily wanted to laugh, and bit her lip to prevent herself from laughing. The corners of his mouth curved. It's been a month since school started, and everyone in the class knows Fu Ying's name, but I'm afraid half of the classmates in the class can't remember Fu Ying, and I haven't seen him talk to anyone in particular on weekdays, let alone him since the start of school. They were all sitting alone. Now he sat next to Lily. Many students quietly turned their heads to look. Some were surprised that Fu Ying had changed seats and sat with Lily, while others were worried about Mi Xiangting's fate. Gloating and sympathizing with the poor. The morning self-study period ended in a strange atmosphere. She originally thought that she had a new desk mate who seemed difficult to get along with. Lily also thought that after 2 days of monthly exams, the teacher would arrange the position based on her grades, but she did not expect that she was unexpected. Other than that, Fu Ying is not difficult to get along with. He just doesn't talk much and is quiet. It's just that he was too tall. During class, the students sitting in the back row could only look at the blackboard with their heads raised and left and right, but they dared not say anything to him. After the monthly exam, everyone in the class breathed a sigh of relief. There was no late self-study on Friday night. Lily returned to the dormitory after school in the evening. Sun Mingming and others had already gone home. Mi Xiangting and Lily were the only ones in the dormitory. Since the last time Lily and Li Xiangting broke up in the classroom, Mi Xiangting stopped talking to Lily when she returned to the dormitory. When she returned to the dormitory after class in the afternoon, Lily was about to take her lunchbox and go to the cafeteria. After making dinner and walking around the campus in the evening, the phone rang in the dormitory unexpectedly. Mi Xiangting was hiding on her bed, with the mosquito net down, as if the dormitory and her own bed were separated into two worlds. She didn't look like she was going to get up to answer the phone. Lily was just about to close the door when she heard the phone rang. He paused and then came back. He put the lunchbox on the table and picked up the phone. "Hello, who are you looking for?" To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 1163. As soon as Lily finished speaking, Lee's father's voice sounded on the other end. "I can't even hear my father's voice." Although Zhou Zhan came to give Lily a message last time, Lily called her home later, but the call was not connected at that time. Maybe her parents had gone out. At first, Lee's father still acted like a strict father and didn't want to call, but as time went by, he couldn't stand it any longer. His daughter had never been away from them for so long, so he really thought about it, called and heard his daughter's voice. Although Lee's father's tone was still serious, there was a hint of happiness in his tone. "Have you eaten yet, Dad?" Lily called first, and Lee's father on the other end responded, "It's already this time. Why are you staying in the dormitory if you haven't gone to eat?" "I was about to go when I heard your call," Lily answered obediently, and Lee's father responded, then continued, "Do you have enough money?" "That's enough." After hearing what she said, Lee's father was silent for a long time, and then told her to study hard and not to focus on other things. After murmuring for a long time, Lee's father seemed to inadvertently mention, "Azan is also at school. If you need help with anything, your Uncle Joe told me to ask him to help." After the plot, Lee's father rarely spoke to the original owner in such a tone. Later, Lee's father even refused to talk to his daughter at all. Sometimes Li Bei would call him and he would pretend not to hear. In fact, Li Bei didn't care about this. No regrets. She knew that Lee's father was complaining that she didn't know good things. He originally hoped that she and Jojan could become a couple. In the end, they were already in a relationship, but they broke up. And because they broke up for such a reason, Lee's father was actually a little embarrassed and angry. But Lily was not ready to become a couple with Jojan now. When Lefo said this, she said, "There is nothing to help. Besides, we are not classmates, so it is not good to go to him all the time." "What's wrong?" When Lee's father heard this, he said loudly, "You grew up together, and Ajan has always taken care of you. When you were young, your Uncle Joe also said that he wanted you to be the daughter-in-law of the Joe family. Ajan, my wife always called you my daughter-in-law when I was little, have you forgotten?" Lily frowned. "This is all in the past. I was young and ignorant before." "Why are you so young?" Lee's father felt a little unhappy when he heard this. "Your Uncle Joe was not bad to you before." It seemed that Joe's father was not bad to Eli Behi before, and Eli Behi had no choice but to marry him. It's like the Joe family repaid their kindness. Lee's father made no attempt to hide his hope that his daughter could be with Jojan. Lily didn't wait for him to finish. "Dad, you were not bad to Jojan before." Lee's father listened to her talk back. Feeling a little unhappy in my heart, I muttered something about how the little girl has grown up and has become more disobedient, and then the phone was snatched away by Lee's mother. On the phone, Lee's mother told Lily to call home if she didn't have enough money, and also said that she should study hard. After talking for a long time, Lee's mother hadn't hung up the phone yet. Miss Yangting had already impatiently flirted with her several times in the dormitory. Curtain. She raised her head and glanced here for a while, her expression a little impatient, holding an English textbook in her hand. Although she didn't speak, she was obviously blaming Lily for talking on the phone for too long and disturbing her. Seeing that Behi kept talking, Miss Yangting was dissatisfied and deliberately read English words loudly. Limu on the other end of the phone also heard Miss Yangting's voice through the phone, and quickly said, okay, you go eat quickly. Call back when you have time." He agreed. After hanging up the phone, Lily remembered that she hadn't gone shopping for several days, so she didn't bring her lunchbox and was about to go out. The phone rang again. Tisk. Miss Yangting made an impatient sound and clasped the book. He said loudly, "Aren't you bothered? If you're bored, you can go out. The dormitory is a common place for resting. If you want to study, you can go to the classroom." Lily glanced at her and picked up the phone again. This time it was Jojan calling. "Eli Behi, have you eaten? Let's eat out in the evening and wander around. I've only been in the imperial capital for a month, so I'm afraid you're not familiar with this place. Uncle Eli told me to take care of you. Jojan came 2 days ago." After watching Lily, I kept thinking about it when I went back to high school. Although number 1 middle school was a key high school, the rule against falling in love was not as strict as it was in junior high school. The boys in the same dormitory are all talking about the beautiful female students among the freshmen. Eli Behi is good looking, so it is inevitable that they are always mentioned. In fact, Jojan always knew that Eli Behi was pretty, and he had always heard people say it before. But in junior high school, teachers were stricter, and if boys and girls got closer to each other, their classmates would laugh at her behind their backs. Not to mention that Jojan always played house games with Eli Behi when he was a child. He was not sensible when he was a child. When he grew up, he was afraid of being laughed at by boys of the same age. He had been very alienated from Eli Behi for 3 years in junior high school. He didn't live on campus at that time. Unlike now, when he heard someone in the dormitory praising Eli Behi, Jojan always had a subtle feeling in his heart. He remembered what these boys were talking about Eli Behi and himself. Having been so close, a surge of pride inevitably welled up in my heart. After meeting with Eli Behi last time, many people in the dormitory were asking him about Eli Behi. The envious and jealous eyes of the brothers in the dormitory, and the playful conversations between their parents when they were young, plus the fact that they are now in high school. After that, the teacher was not as strict about love as before. Joe-Jean himself always remembered the feeling when he held Lily's arm last time. He endured it for several days. He originally wanted to wait for Lily to come to him, but he didn't expect Lily to come to him. He didn't call him at all. Instead, he couldn't help himself and called Lily to invite Lily to dinner and go out for a walk. Lily didn't want to have any additional development with him, so she naturally refused. There was a hint of disappointment in Joe-Jean's voice on the phone, but a boy of his age was not so thick-skinned as to be stubborn. The original owner of this mission didn't have any big aspirations. His only hobby was to buy things and dress up beautifully. She didn't dress up to attract anyone's attention, it was just to make herself feel happier. Lily thought for a while, then put her wallet in her pocket and went out. It was still early, so she found a small restaurant to order first. After filling up my stomach with a portion of fried rice, I started walking around. There are many shops around. Today, Friday night, the school gate is open, and you can vaguely see many students from No. 1 middle school or groups of small and medium-sized students walking around arm in arm. There are many shops around the school, including many small jewelry shops and ready-made clothing shops that girls like. From Lily's point of view, although the original owner likes to buy things, she has no plan. Most of the money she earned from working in the early days was spent on shopping. Bags and small jewelry were of no use at all. Although she felt refreshed for a while after buying them, most of them were later locked in the cabinet and had no use at all. Several female students were rummaging through the floats in a nearby clothing store. There were a lot of discounted clothes on the float, which cost 50 yuan apiece. Several female students were rummaging through beautiful skirts and clothes. One of the white linen tops was thrown aside. The style of this dress is too simple, and it is very loose. In addition, it is white, and if many people touch it, it will inevitably leave some fingerprints on it. It looks a bit dirty, and is not very popular. Several people picked it up and put it down. The female boss sat aside and felt helpless when she saw this scene. "I've taken care of this top. Anyone who wants 30 can take it away." As soon as these words were spoken, the girls looked hesitant, but in the end they shook their heads. However, after Lily heard this, she took out 30 yuan and bought the top without thinking. She had learned needlework and embroidery before when she entered the mission. She could make a simple change to this white top. After buying some needles and thread, she could embroider simple patterns on the hem and cuffs to make this simple dress. Clothes have become more than simple. When she bought the silk thread and returned to the dormitory, Miss Yangting was no longer there. At this time, she was either going to the classroom or going out for fun. Lily took a shower before going to the classroom. There were not many people in the classroom on Friday night. Many students were in 2s and 3s. They were sitting together and talking. To her surprise, Fu Ying was sitting where she was originally sitting. He took a book and was reading it. His hair had just been washed and was not completely dry. He was wearing a dark green cotton plaid shirt. The collar was not fully buttoned, revealing his delicate collarbones. The shirt made his skin unusually white. A shirt that looked ordinary to others looked indescribably good on him. He leaned on the table behind him. When Lily came over, he didn't turn his head, but looked over. Lily nodded and smiled at him, and immediately saw the book he was holding, which read, "The Arrogant Man Chasing His Wife." He had no intention of hiding it, so he nodded slightly at Lily and dismissed it. After saying hello, he turned his attention to the book again. The bony fingers turned the pages of the book from time to time. Lily sat next to him, and with a glance, she saw the newly opened page of the book that read, "Ye Mei Jun reached out and lifted up Zi Suer's clothes." The skin under the clothes seemed to be newly peeled off. Like an eggshell, Zi Suer panted while shouting no, which made Yamei Jun's expression become even more evil. There are several paragraphs about flesh and desire at the back. This is clearly a small meat book. Fu Ying seemed to have noticed Lily's peak. He was not embarrassed at all when he was caught reading a novel. Instead, he calmly put the book on the table and invited her, "Want to read it?" "No need." Lily shook her head and refused calmly, "There are many romance novels like this outside the school. You can rent one for a day." To be continued. Carrot. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 1164. The school has a huge rental market for romance novels, and there are the most rental bookstores around the school. Many girls of this age are in the moment of fantasy and can carry a lot of them back to the dormitory at one time. In the plot, Miss Yangting became crazy obsessed with such novels in the first semester of high school. She rented more than 10 copies at a time and took them back to her dormitory. She also strongly recommended them to Li Beihe. Unfortunately, Li Beihe loved buying things more than reading them. Know why is it addictive? She originally said this to show that she didn't have to share it with Fu Ying. If she wanted to see it, she could rent it outside the school. Unexpectedly, Fu Ying frowned when he heard her say this. $1, it also says the price is 58. The book looks new, and you can still smell the smell of new ink. Lily nodded and was about to open the desk and take out her book when Fu Ying suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist. His fingers were slender and cold. When he touched Lily's wrist, he felt a light numbness and familiarity like an electric shock. Come on, she didn't reject the feeling of touching Fu Ying. Lily's body reacted faster than her brain, and she subconsciously grabbed him with her backhand. The two held hands together, and they immediately shook him off without any displeasure. Fu Ying instinctively held her tighter, and Lily raised her head and stared at him. Fu Ying's appearance was not similar to Li Yangzi's at all, but the cold and indifferent feeling between her eyebrows was very similar. She didn't have any objection to Fu Ying's touch, but subconsciously moved a stool closer to him. Closer. Before he could speak, someone outside the classroom shouted, "Xiao Li, come out." The voice was very familiar, it sounded like Zhou Zhan's, not to mention that the surname Li was not particularly rare. However, there were not many people in the class named Li or with the word in their names. Lily turned around to see Zhou Zhan standing outside the classroom with an ugly look on his face. Like a husband caught in adultery, let her go out for a while. She let go of Fu Ying's hand, but Fu Ying didn't let go. Instead, his fingertips rubbed the back of her hand twice. Seeing Lily stand up, she let go of her hand. She stopped reading the novel now. She clasped the book on the table, crossed her arms with her chest and stared at her. Lily's scalp was a little numb when he looked at her. When she left the classroom, she felt his eyes on her back. She stood behind the wall to avoid Fu Ying's gaze. Zhou Zhan glanced at the classroom with hatred, his expression a little severe. "Why are you sitting with him?" Zhou Zhan naturally knew how to help Ying. Just like Li Beihe was well known for her beauty in the first grade of high school, Fu Ying was also famous in the school, and he knew it. He didn't remember who Li Beihe was sitting with, but it was definitely not with Fu Ying, because Fu Ying was famous, so if they were sitting together, he would definitely have an impression. The last time he came here, he still remembered that the person sitting next to Li Beihe was not Fu Ying. When they came back this time, the two of them sat down together and even held hands. Zhou Zhan felt a little uncomfortable and warned. "You have only been in high school for a short time, and you don't know much about others. Don't be fooled easily. He and Li Beihe have known each other for so many years. Except for holding hands when they were childhood sweethearts, they have never known each other since they grew up. They had touched hands, and the last time he held her arm was the closest the two of them had in the past few years since junior high school. Thinking that she hadn't held hands with Ellie Behe yet, someone else had already held her hand as soon as she turned around. Joe Jean felt uncomfortable. It was as if his territory had been invaded by someone. I know this man. I heard he has a good background. He might be a playboy. Don't be deceived. Lily didn't want to talk to him about this. Changing the subject, is something wrong? I'm doing it for your own good. What kind of family background do we have? You just have to know it yourself. What Ellie Behe disliked the most in the plot was hearing Joe Jean say this. At that time, he knew that Ellie Behe liked after buying things. I told her more than once, saying that the two of them were from ordinary family backgrounds, and she was so vain and money-worshipping, and no one could afford to support a girl like her. It's just that the two of them were already together at that time, so Joe Jean said it to Ellie Behe and let it go. At this time, the two of them were not dating yet. What kind of family background do we have? My father is not a petty thief, and my family is shady, so what do I know? In the past, Ellie Behe had a well-behaved and introverted personality and didn't talk much. She just listened to what Joe Jean said. In junior high school at that time, Joe Jean alienated her, and she stopped annoying her. She was really well behaved. This was Lily's first time to go against him. Joe Jean's face turned red and he was a little at a loss. Don't be angry, he looked a little at a loss. He wanted to coax her, but he didn't seem to know how to speak. In the end, he had to bite the bullet and said, I didn't mean that. I was just afraid that you would be deceived. Uncle Ellie asked me to be careful. I'm taking care of you. Besides, I'm focusing on studies now, not for you to fall in love. After Joe Jean said this, he couldn't help but feel a little discouraged when Lily didn't say anything. He said dejectedly, forget it, I'll go back first. The young man lowered his head and said he was about to leave, but he kicked his toes on the ground. Kicking, obviously waiting for Lily to ask him to stay. Then you go back first. As soon as Lily said this, Joe Jean turned to look at her, his eyes full of disappointment. He turned around to leave in anger, but turned around to see Lily looking like she was about to enter the classroom. He couldn't help but speak again. Tomorrow is Saturday, there are no classes, the basketball team has training, do you want to come and watch? The school does not encourage students to just study and ignore other things. Number 1 Middle school imitates foreign education models and organizes various clubs, which are led by the students themselves. The school will allocate a certain amount of funds to the clubs every year. If you work hard to join the clubs, those with excellent results will also count them as points. In the past, it will then be included in the college entrance examination scores. Although Joe Jean's grades were good at the beginning, he was still a few points short of entering Imperial Number 1 Middle School. It was because he was good at basketball that he was called into the school with extra points for his specialty. He is handsome and plays basketball well. When girls see him playing basketball, most of them will applaud and scream. Joe Jean remembered that Ellie Behe had never seen him play basketball before. Now that she was not enthusiastic about him, he felt inexplicably embarrassed. He invited her to watch him play basketball, but she didn't say anything. And felt a little flustered. We don't have to go to class tomorrow. We grew up together after all. You won't even give me this face, right? The two did grow up together, not to mention that there was no quarrel between the two later in the plot. When Ellie Behe and Joe Jean had not broken up, Joe Jean's parents were indeed not bad to the original owner. Thinking of this, Lily nodded. After sending Joe Jean away, Fuying had disappeared when he returned to the classroom. His novel was still on the table. When Lily took the math textbook and came out to read it, her eyes fell on the novel involuntarily, remembering the previous meeting with Fuying. The feeling when my hands touched it, and thinking of Li Yangzi, I finally picked up the novel by accident and flipped through it casually. Zhou Zhan's basketball training was in the afternoon. Lily got up in the morning and drew patterns on her clothes with a sketch pen. This cotton and linen dress is soft and comfortable, the color is light, and the style is simple. It can be easily changed into a casual style with a slightly ancient flavor. She painted patterns on both sides of the hem and cuffs to match her figure. After roughly changing the style of the clothes, I added thread, threaded the needle and started to embroider. In the whole morning, Lily had almost embroidered the pattern traced under the hem of her dress. She saw that it was already getting late, and before she was ready to pick up her lunchbox and go out, a call from Zhou Zhan came to the dormitory, saying that he wanted to have lunch with her. For lunch. Lily rejected Zhou Zhan and went to the playground after eating in the cafeteria. The basketball team members had already changed their clothes and were talking in the middle of the field. Several girls were sitting on the steps next to them, whispering to each other. When Lily came over, Zhou Zhan was still sitting on the steps looking up with a disappointed look on his face. When he saw Lily coming over, his eyes lit up and he waved to Lily. "Xiao Ellie, come here," he spoke loudly, and many people's attention was attracted to him. Their eyes turned this way. When they saw Lily, several male classmates from the basketball team were sitting next to him. His eyes lit up and he stood up. "Zhou Zhan, is this your girlfriend?" "This is Ellie Lily." "You've hidden it well enough." A male classmate who was about the same height as Zhou Zhan bumped Zhou Zhan with his shoulder and said enviously. After hearing this, Lily said, "We are just neighbors, not boyfriend and girlfriend." After her explanation, a group of people burst into laughter. "You are not a girlfriend and you come to see him play." Zhou Zhan didn't say anything, and Lily frowned. "If I'm not my girlfriend, why can't I watch the game? Then I'm leaving." Upon hearing this, Zhou Zhan was a little anxious and hurriedly came to stop her. "Oh, don't go. If it's not now, why not in the future? Uncle Ellie always said that he would give you to me as my daughter-in-law when he was young, but at that time, my brother, I just don't want to get married." He was used to joking with the people on the basketball team, but he was not serious about it. When a group of people heard what he said, they all laughed loudly again. He was smiling playfully, grinning at the corners of his mouth, showing a naughty and bad look, which attracted the eyes of several other girls sitting by the stairs to fall on him, and their faces turned a little red. "Zhou Zhan, we are just neighbors. If my father talks nonsense to tease you, don't worry. I came here to watch you play because we are neighbors. If anyone misunderstood, I am really sorry. I'm leaving." After Lily finished speaking, she turned to leave. Several people on the basketball team originally thought that Lily was Zhou Zhan's girlfriend. They were joking like this to get closer to Lily. Unexpectedly, as soon as they said the words, the relationship did not get closer. Instead, the atmosphere became a bit awkward. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 1165. Zhou Zhan's joke just now did not make Lily shy and embarrassed to explain, so he took the opportunity to position the relationship between the two as lovers. When Lily refuted it, his face became a little stiff. Several teammates who came around were embarrassed and made excuses, saying they were going to train. Only Zhou Zhan stayed, stopped Lily who was about to leave, and pursed his lips. "Isn't it just a joke? Are you so serious?" There was some displeasure in his tone. Adolescent boys have strong self-esteem. Lily had made him unable to stand down in front of his friends before. He was very unhappy in his heart, but he just endured it and waited until the others left before he started to get angry. "Jokes are big or small. I don't like you. If my dad used to tease you and make a joke, I really want to apologize to you. I don't want others to misunderstand." As soon as Lily finished speaking, Zhou Zhan couldn't bear it. He couldn't help but said sourly, "If you don't like me, who do you like?" "Fu Ying. Stop joking. With such a background, how can someone like you? Lily's words about not liking him made Joe Jean's expression change immediately. As soon as those words came out of his mouth, Lily's expression darkened. It's my freedom to like whoever I want. My parents didn't interfere with me. You taking too much care. After she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Joe Jean looked at her back and clenched his fists. She and Joe Jean broke up on bad terms, and Lee's father called her in the evening and asked her if she had quarreled with Joe Jean. Apparently as soon as she left at noon, Joe Jean finished basketball training and called home. Uncle Joe was so kind to you back then. He would always leave a portion for you if there was any delicious food at home. Now that you have grown up, you still have to quarrel even if you say a few words to someone, Lee's father said in a somewhat unhappy tone. Lily, he asked, Uncle Joe was good to me when I was young, but could it be that my father was not good to Joe Jean before? Besides, Uncle Joe was good to me. Do I have to commit myself to him? I don't like Joe Jean, and I don't want to be with him if he is dating. He will not wait for Joe Jean to choose just because Uncle Joe left delicious food for me. If he is chosen, he will marry into the Joe family, and if he is not chosen, he will get out. When Lee's father heard what Lily said, his tone became a little bad. It's too much to say. Now that you are studying outside, you have become stubborn and disobedient. Why can't Joe Jean choose you? You just have a bad temper. You don't. If you like him, who else do you like? That male classmate in your class. Jean is a person that both mom and dad know. He is better than the people outside. Besides, he is good at everything. Why should he like you? Lee's father? I have always known that my daughter is good looking, but I am afraid that because she is beautiful and her parents are not around, she will be tempted by others. Today Joe Jean called back to Joe's house, and Joe's father came over during dinner in the evening. He mentioned seemingly unintentionally that Lily seemed to have a boyfriend at school, and Lee's father couldn't sit still at that time. During the meal, Father Joe mentioned how cute and obedient Ellie Bay he was back then, and how much his son liked her and how much he hoped she would be his daughter-in-law. He said that Lee's father's cheeks turned red, and he had to endure the meal and finished the meal. When Father Joe left, he also held his hand and said, "Lau Ellie, I originally thought that we would be lifelong friends and we could become in-laws when we are old, but now it seems that we are not destined to be together. The children are older and have their own ideas. It seems that I am not so lucky." It's gone. After Joe's father left, Lee's father was so angry that his heart ached. He sent Joe's father away with a smile on his face, and dialed the number of Bayhe's dormitory. What kind of family background do we have? Don't think about things all day long. It's best to be honest. I think that boy Jean knows everything and has a good temper. He doesn't look bad either. Dad and Uncle Joe are colleagues, dear. Getting married is the best, being ordinary is the real thing. If you marry into such a family, your parents-in-law will also treat you as their own daughter. It is better than if you are in a relationship with someone else and get teased by others. Originally what Lee's father said was not wrong, but this was just his own opinion. The original owner didn't necessarily like Joe Jean that much at that time. I'm afraid it was more of an illusion about Joe Jean due to constant reminders from her parents. Otherwise, after Joe Jean and Miss Yangting got together, she actually became more fond of Joe Jean. It wasn't that she was sad that her boyfriend cheated on her with her best friend, but that she was wronged by being criticized and scolded for buying something by herself later. I will not fall in love with Joe Jean, nor will I marry into the Joe family. Uncle Joe is good to me, but Dad, you are not bad to Joe Jean either. Before Lily could finish her words, Lee's father interrupted her. If you don't listen to me, don't come back. After saying that, Lee's father hung up the phone directly. A busy tone came from the phone, and Lily put the phone down calmly. Miss Yangting was in the dormitory. Although she didn't hear what Lee's father said, she did hear the words Jojan and fall in love. Although there had been a lot of tension between her and Lily since she changed places last time. She basically stopped talking, but now she couldn't hold back. This call came from your home? Did you and Jojan quarrel? Lily glanced at her. She was lying beside the bed, staring at him with curiosity. Why are Jojan and I quarreling? Miss Yangting was obviously not satisfied with Lily's answer. Didn't you just say that you would not fall in love with Jojan or marry into the Zhou family? In fact, I think Jojan also pretty good. Lily ignored her. It was around this time when the original owner fell in love with Jojan, and Miss Yangting always liked to ask questions. It is precisely because she knew too much in the early stage that when Jojan was explaining Jojan later, Jojan always used her as an acquaintance and vomited bitterness to her, and the two later got involved at some point. Maybe Miss Yangting's behavior was not intentional, and Lily was not ready to date Jojan, but she still didn't want to say too much to her at this time. Seeing that Lily had stopped talking, and remembering that the matter between the two of them was not over yet, and Lily had not apologized to her yet, Miss Yangting let out a hum, and whispered in a low voice, "Forget it if you don't say it. I just didn't want to tell you. Why should I tell you my private matters? I asked you what size your mother-in-law is wearing and what date your aunt is coming." As soon as Lily finished speaking, Miss Yangting's face turned pale again. She flushed, retreated into the mosquito net, and began to cry. She cried, and Lily took out the needle and thread and continued what she had not finished in the morning. "Lee's father is angry this time, and I'm afraid he won't call again for a long time. Lily is not ready to bow her head on this matter. Although she is a parent, there are some things that if she is soft-hearted and agrees to Lee's father's request, there will be endless troubles ahead. When Lee's father gets angry, he will most likely deduct her living expenses and force her to compromise. Lily is going to have to find a part-time job. Although she is known as a middle school student, Lily is still young after all, and what she can do is limited. The previous part-time job of the original owner was as a waiter in a restaurant outside the school on Saturdays and weekends, and the salary was not high. Lily thought about it. Decided to find a dance training class and become a dance teacher. There are many such training classes around the school, and there are students in number 1 middle school who attend classes every weekend. Although Li Bei has never practiced dancing, Lily has practiced physical skills with the stars. After practicing physical skills, her body is very flexible, and ordinary dance moves are not difficult for her. Lily has also worked as a dance teacher at work, and has more or less experience in dancing while staring at people. The most important thing is that the salary of a dance teacher is higher than that of a waiter. A class should cost at least 50 yuan a week. After all, I already have $100. For 4 weeks every month, I still have $400. In addition, you can also do part-time work of distributing flyers, so Lily is not afraid of tiredness and pain, so you don't have to spend money on Muse money when you buy things by yourself. But before Lily found a part-time job, she finished embroidering the altered clothes the next day, washed them and hung them in the dormitory. When Sun Mingming and others came back from the dormitory in the evening, they saw the new clothes hanging in the dormitory at a glance. "Who bought this? It's not yet time for evening self-study. The other people in the dormitory have come back one after another. They are packing their luggage. Someone took a bag of snacks and ate them on the bed." After listening to Sun Mingming's words, he subconsciously stood up and looked towards the balcony. There are several pieces of clothing hanging on the balcony, one of which is a white cotton and linen top that Lily has modified by herself. However, the top is now much more colorful than the original one. 2 flowers with green leaves are embroidered under the hem. With flower buds in her mouth, the cuffs were embroidered with lace and 2 butterflies. When the sleeves fell down, they just hung on the edge of the clothes. It looked as if the butterflies had stopped on the flowers. The whole dress suddenly came alive. These are the only people in the dormitory. The little princesses never know how to wash their own clothes. Most of their clothes are taken home to be washed. The only two people in the dormitory who know how to wash clothes are Li Beihi and Miss Yangting. Miss Yangting glanced at it and shook her head. It's not mine. It's mine. What's wrong? Lily replied, and Sun Mingming put his things on the table nearby and ran to the balcony. Can I touch it? Lily nodded. The clothes were already dry. Sun Mingming dragged the stool and took them off. He looked at the embroidery several times. It's quite novel. It doesn't look like it was woven by machine in modern crafts. Mechanical woven things are no longer. It's strange, sometimes it is exquisite, but it loses a bit of spirituality and freshness, and it doesn't look like handmade things. She was used to wearing good clothes, and she could tell at a glance whether they were handmade or not. It's just that the material is a bit different, but the pattern is pretty good. Where did you buy it? How much did it cost? Bought outside the school gate, 30 yuan. When Sun Mingming heard Lily's answer, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. I'm afraid the shops outside the school can't sell this good thing, and you shouldn't be able to buy it for 30 yuan. As for the handmade ones, the craftsmanship is not the only thing, but the materials, it's really ordinary. It's indeed 30 yuan. I embroidered the flowers myself. Sun Mingming's eyes lit up when she heard what she said. You embroidered it? No wonder, I said. Why is there such a thing outside the school? I didn't expect you to be like this. What a great move. To be continued. P.S. The third update. The fourth update, please wait a moment. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 1166. Normally Sun Mingming and others never talk to Li Beihi and Miss Yangting. Even though school has been open for so long and they are all in the same dormitory, they rarely talk to each other. Several other people in the dormitory also fawned over Sun Mingming very much, but she usually ignored people. Now Miss Yangting heard that she kept talking to Lily and praised her, and she felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. Isn't it just embroidery? There are clothes sold in my mother's shop that are more beautiful than this. As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Mingming glanced at her with the corner of his mouth raised and said nothing. He then moved the clothes around his body twice, feeling a little regretful. You are thinner than me, and your figure is a little taller than me, so I probably won't be able to wear it. But this flower is so beautiful. My mother brought me a skirt when she went abroad. It looks quite slim when I wear it, and the color is good. Unfortunately, my mother has a more mature vision. The skirt is too simple. It makes me look several years older when I put it on. Lily, if you can embroider, help me too. Do me a favor, okay? Miss Yangting just leaned over to say something, but Sun Mingming not only ignored her, but also continued to talk to Lily. Miss Yangting had tears in her eyes. She didn't know what she said wrongly, which made Sun Mingming look like that just now. She gritted her teeth, glared at Lily, and fell down on the bed without making a sound. Bring it to me first, Lily agreed without a word. She heard Sun Mingming mention that the skirt was brought back from abroad, and she didn't know if it could be modified. If the modification was damaged, she might not have the money to pay for it. As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Mingming nodded and smiled at her. Next, he became much more generous towards her. Not only did he divide some of the snacks he brought back from home with Lily, he also grabbed a bunch of pressed hair and hairpins with crystals and piled them on Lily's bed for her to choose from. At a glance, Lily saw a small frog's headband made of green crystal. The crystal was not purely natural. It's just the right amount of green and vividly carved, making people fall in love with it at first sight. She reached out to take it, and Sun Mingming was a little surprised when he saw it. I also think this one is the prettiest. This time this headband came out, I bought them all at once. This green crystal hairband is also expensive, but it is not among them. The most precious thing was that Sun Mingming saw Lily collecting the things and choosing what he liked. Suddenly, he had a great impression of this dormitory classmate who usually didn't talk much. The girl's feelings came out of nowhere. I also have a hairpin of the same series, it's an insect. It's also very beautiful. After she finished speaking, she rummaged through her bag. I think I put it at home. I'll bring it to you next time. It's interesting to look at them together. Last time I wore them, they were. My mother pointed and laughed for a long time. Sun Mingming asked Lily to help him change his clothes. I made the request first, and felt that giving money would be too tacky and saying thank you would be too light, so it was just right to give him a card now. Lily was also not polite to Sun Mingming because the original owner really liked these things. After the two of them chose the things, they were both happy. Sun Mingming sat on the bed and chatted with Lily. The other people also came over to look at her pile of things. There was a dazzling array of things. Just say something to me. It's quite lively. There used to be a total of 6 people in the dormitory. The 4 of them, Sun Mingming, were chatting. Miss Yangting at least had Li Beihe to accompany her when she was alone. Now that she saw Lily joining this group of people, she thought that the situation at home was better than Li Beihe's at least. Now Li Beihe is talking to Sun Mingming and the others, while she is still hiding aside. Miss Yangting felt sour and jealous. When she heard the laughter of several people chatting, she silently packed her things and went to the classroom. As soon as she left, Sun Mingming covered her mouth and laughed. Miss Yangting is so funny. Comparing machine-woven things with handmade things, does she understand? Machine-made things cost a lot in this day and age, handmade things are more profitable. It's only valuable. A handmade cheongsam for my mother can be customized for this amount. She gestured with her fingers. Thinking of her family's background, the girl with long hair grinned, 100,000. Seeing that Sun Mingming didn't refute, the girl was speechless. The best furs from my family are about this price. When Lily heard this, she couldn't help but feel moved in her heart. She can do needlework, but she has never made anything like cheongsam. However, when she became Tao Lily in the previous mission, she did a lot of handicrafts. As long as there is fabric, she can make it a few times, and she will never be better than others when she is familiar with it. It's just too different. Use your spare time to make some, even if the price is not as much as 100,000, there are always hundreds or even thousands. It seems more convenient to make money in this way than teaching dance. She made up her mind and decided to go back to an internet cafe to search for cheongsam styles. After chatting with Sun Mingming and others for a while, she saw that it was getting late, and then they went to the classroom for evening self-study together. Most of the people were sitting in the classroom now, including Fu Ying. Sun Mingming originally wanted to sit next to Lily, but when he saw Fu Ying was there, he didn't dare to move closer. He waved to Lily and pulled a few people along. A girl sat in the front. He was still reading a book in his hand. This time it was not a romance novel, but an original English book. Lily took a look at it and then thought about it. I didn't take away your book last time, so I put it away. She took out the novel that Fu Ying left behind last time from the desk. He glanced at it, with confusion in his eyes. He was obviously very unfamiliar with this book, the story of an arrogant man chasing his wife. Hearing Lily say that this book was his, he showed a bit of surprise. Mine. It was only Friday when Lily picked up this novel. In less than 2 days, he seemed to have forgotten everything. Lily was a little speechless. She opened the novel and pointed to one of the places. Zi Suer only felt that her body there was an indescribable abnormality, and a heat flowed out from between the legs. He leaned over and said, "Look, you saw this place last time. So you remember it so clearly." Fu Ying nodded. When Lily heard what he said, she always felt that something was wrong. His tone was serious and calm. Lily raised her head to look at his face. His expression was serious, but his eyes were full of tears. With a faint smile on his face, the fool knew that he was pretending to be stupid just now. These rental romance novels will inevitably contain some sensual descriptions, which will make girls at this age who are in a hazy period somewhat shy and fanciful. I thought that the paragraph I was referring to happened to be about the first time of the male and female protagonists. Seeing the scene in the wedding room, Lily could not help but wonder if Fu Ying had discovered that she was peeping on Friday night and deliberately turned to this page. He just happened to see this passionate moment. No matter how calm Lily was, her ears would inevitably feel a little hot. She pretended to be calm and closed the book, put it on his desk, and turned her head away from him. "The hair tie is very nice, I've never worn it before." Lily ignored him, while Fu Ying put down the book in his hand and came closer. He used an affirmative sentence instead of a question sentence, which proved that he had a good memory and was very sure about his memory. Lily was sure that Fu Ying remembered this novel and was deliberately teasing herself. Lily didn't want to talk to him, so he curled his lips. "Have you finished the novel?" He placed his palm on the novel and lowered his head to look at Lily's face. "Is it good?" "There are some wonderful paragraphs in it, but I think the author's description is too exaggerated." He looked like he was going to discuss the novel with her, and Lily couldn't help but say, "I didn't read it." Really, he still didn't believe it. Lily was a little embarrassed and glared at him. "I really didn't read it." "You didn't take the book with you after you left that day?" "I just put it away for you." "I didn't read it and didn't pass it." "I won't look through other people's things if they allow it, even if it's a book." It has been several days since Fu Ying moved here to sit at the same table with Bai He. The two of them rarely talk. Unlike other students in the class, she chatters and doesn't talk too much. She is quiet. This is the first time for him to be with Bai He. Say so many things. The girl's cheeks were slightly red now, and her black and white eyes were like two pools of water, engulfing people in an instant. He saw her righteous denial, which brought out a somewhat cute feeling in her seriousness. Fu Ying nodded. "Then I allow you to see it." As soon as she finished speaking, Fu Ying saw her forehead jump twice. "I don't want to read it," Lily denied again, and Fu Ying put the book away expressionlessly. "Oh, what do you like to read?" "I like beautiful things." After Lily finished speaking, Fu Ying stretched out his hand to pluck the knot in her hair. "Is it this?" He fiddled with Lily's hair with his fingers, causing the hair to itch slightly. Lily tilted her head to avoid his hand and glared at him, and he couldn't help but laugh softly. When he laughed, his voice was clear, not like Zhou Zhan's cheerful laughter like a sunny boy. He rarely laughed, but when he did, he looked particularly stunning. His slender eyes were curved, with a look of silkworms under his eyes, revealing a few neat white teeth. His smile quickly faded, and he said seriously, "Okay, thank you for helping me put away the book. Next I'll treat you to dinner this time." Fu Ying's food is really not delicious. He is too famous in the school. Sitting at the same table with him is enough to attract attention. If the two of them go out to eat together, I am afraid there will be some gossip in the class. But he just said it casually, and he might not really invite her to dinner. Lily thought of the scene when she shook hands with him that day, hesitated, and finally nodded. He said he wanted to treat Lily to dinner, but Fu Ying didn't mention it again until Friday. The class monthly exam rankings came out, and the class teacher started changing seats based on everyone's scores. This news made some people in the class feel regretful and excited at the same time. When the school started in the first year of high school, many students didn't know each other before. Most of the boys in the same dormitory sat next to boys, and girls sat next to girls. There were very few boys and girls sitting next to each other. Once they started to change their positions, it is conceivable that if you change to a new deskmate, it is very likely that he will be of the opposite sex. From the 29th to January 7th is the double monthly ticket period. Please leave all the tickets to me if you have tickets. To be continued. P.S. Although it was originally planned that there were still 3 stories to be completed, My management girl Xioxi said that there are exactly 77 stories now, including the Vanity Girl, and then I, Xiaofei, said that we should make it up to 99 and 81 stories. This sounds better, but my obsessive compulsive disorder is kicking in a bit, so I decided to add 2 more stories on the spur of the moment to see if I would be beaten. The 4th update has arrived. Asking for a monthly ticket. Look at my incomparable beauty, which makes me intoxicated even when I look in the mirror every day. Why don't you all vote for me? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 1167. For boys and girls aged 14 or 15, this feeling is both new and a little shy. Fuying is the first in the class. The first thing the class teacher read was his name, but he did not move from his seat. Obviously he was satisfied with his current position and didn't want to change. The head teacher hesitated for a moment, and when he glanced at Lily sitting next to him, he skipped the helper and read the next name. As a result of the placement arrangement, several students in the class with slightly lower grades were moved to the back rows, those with average grades were moved to the front, and those with the best grades were moved to the middle. Lily and Fuying were not moved. Still sitting in the original position. This time the monthly exam results came out. Lily's exam results were not satisfactory because she entered the mission too late. After the class teacher arranged the positions, he also conducted election activities for class monitors, study committee members and other class cotters. The whole morning passed like this. When Sun Mingming came back from home after the weekend, she brought an apricot-colored dress. The style was indeed too simple. At the same time, she also brought the hairpin she promised to give Lily last time. It was a small insect hairpin. The insect was made of purple crystal, and its wings were carved from brown crystal. It looked about the size of a fingernail and was very vivid. The girls in the dormitory were a little envious when they saw it, including Miss Yangting. Sun Mingming, this thing isn't cheap, is it? Miss Yangting also saw the hair tie that Sun Mingming gave Lily last time. Lily had tied her hair with that hair rope several times. Miss Yangting had also seen it, and it was not without envy in her heart. In the past week, the relationship between Sun Mingming and others in the dormitory and Lily have improved a lot, and Miss Yangting seems to have been excluded. No one talked to her in the dormitory every day. When she heard a few people sitting next to her on Lily's bed talking and laughing, she felt a little sour in her heart while hiding in her bed. She didn't understand why Lily embroidered 2 flowers. Sun Mingming's attitude towards her has changed so much. Clothes like the ones Lily made by herself, and she could take a picture of them later, would bring a lot of clothes to her mother, and it wouldn't be a problem to give one to everyone in the dormitory. It is natural for girls to like beautiful things. She also went out to shop outside and asked about the hair ropes like the one Sun Mingming gave Lily on weekends. No one was selling them at all. Even some jewelry with rhinestones in them often cost more than 100 or 200 yuan. Sun Mingming's products were obvious. It's not that high-end, and probably the price is higher. Sun Mingming just gave things like this to people without saying anything. Last weekend, Sun Mingming said that he would give Lily a hairpin with a small frog. At that time, Miss Yangting thought she was just saying it casually, but she didn't expect that she would actually give it to Lily this weekend. Coming. At this moment, 5 girls were gathered in a group in the dormitory. Looking at the things Sun Mingming brought, Miss Yangting sat on her bed, looked at the scene on the bed opposite, and couldn't help but ask, "Li Bei, it doesn't seem right for you to accept other people's things so casually." As soon as she said this, Sun Mingming had already said that he would give it to Lily, but after hearing this, he couldn't help but sneered. "I'm happy to give it away. Do you care?" After she finished speaking, she poured out many things from her bag. This time she was thinking about it when she returned home and brought several things over. You guys choose the same one depending on which one you like. She called on the girls who were sitting around to choose these exquisite trinkets, and said loudly, "This thing was packed and brought back by my second aunt when she went abroad before. She said it was for delivery. Just the right person." In Mi Xiangting's eyes, these accessories were too expensive, but in Sun Mingming's eyes, these things were meant to be given away. As soon as Sun Mingming said these words, Mi Xiangting's cheeks turned red, and several other people in the dormitory stared at her with mocking eyes. She was about to burst into tears. But he held it back and wanted to say something, but in the end he just sneered and made his attitude clear. Then she retreated to her own bed, and it didn't take long. She lifted the mosquito net again, put on her shoes and left the dormitory without looking back. "Why is this Mi Xiangting so annoying?" Sun Mingming waited for her to leave, then snorted and picked up the insect hairpin again. "Leave her alone, she's troublesome." She handed the hairpin to Lily, then pointed to her own skirt, said, "I'm sorry for bothering you, can you see if it can be changed?" Lily nodded and did not reach out to pick up the hairpin. She had already received a hairpin from Sun Mingming before, and she was not ready to take away Sun Mingming's hairpin in a hurry before her dress was changed. Although what Mi Xiangting said before was unpleasant, it was not unreasonable. She was going to change Sun Mingming's skirt, so she accepted her things. If Sun Mingming didn't like the changes, she wouldn't accept the hairpins and the money for the hair ropes. Then she would just give it back to Sun Mingming. "Don't be busy, the style of this skirt is simple and the color is bright yellow. In fact, it is relatively more suitable for young girls in their 20s. Sun Mingming is only 15 years old at the moment. The style of this skirt is indeed generous enough, but not too small. It's a bit cute, but it could use some work on the waist." She thought about it and put the skirt away. "Let me tell you first, if you don't like it, if I change it, I won't be responsible." Sun Mingming had been getting along with her these days and had some understanding of her character. When he asked her to help change her skirt, she didn't agree. She was obviously not a big talker. "I took the skirt off when I saw it now, and I must have been aware of it. Moreover, she has a lot of skirts, but this skirt has a very good style and color, so she always feels it is a pity. She usually doesn't wear the ones she keeps in the closet." After hearing what Lily said, Sun Mingming laughed. "Don't worry, just change it. I won't blame you if it doesn't look good. I didn't wear it in the first place. If you change it, it's like picking it up. Even if it's not changed well, at most it's just a piece of clothing missing from the wardrobe." She said this as soon as he said that. Lily nodded. It was still early at this time, only around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was still a while before the time for self-study in the evening. Sun Mingming and others made an appointment to have dinner outside the school. When he asked Lily if he wanted to go, Lily refused. She looked at the color of the skirt, put it away in her cabinet, and then followed her out the door with her purse. Although it was the weekend, the campus was still very lively. Many students on campus were riding bicycles on the tree-lined avenue. Lily left the school gate and found a nearby jewelry store. Various colorful silk scarves were hung at the door, saying they were purchased from Hangzhou, and each piece was about the same size as a Chinese language book. They were not favored by students. The shop owner offered discounts, and each pair cost 20 yuan. She chose a few pairs that were similar in color to the skirt and bought them. After coming down, she bought some more silk thread, and when she returned to school with a bag in hand, she heard someone calling her name from a distance. "Xiao Li." Except for Zhou, no one else would call her name like this in school. Lily turned her head. Not far away, under the tree-lined walkway, Zhou was sitting on a chair wearing a basketball uniform, with his long legs crossed and his hands spread out on the back of the chair. Mi Xiangting, who had gone out before, was sitting next to him. The two of them seemed to be talking about something, but they didn't expect that Zhou Zhan would suddenly see Lily and call her. Miss Yangting showed embarrassment on her face, and she stood up immediately, and was about to run. A young man riding a bicycle passed by her. Her action startled both of them. The young man also had a female classmate riding in the back seat of his car. In desperation, he pressed the bicycle bell and braked suddenly. "What are you doing?" The girl almost fell down, hurriedly hugged the boy's waist, jumped off the back seat of the bicycle, then pointed at Miss Yangting and said angrily, "Such a wide road, you have to go to the road, run in the middle." "Xiao Li, come here." Zhou Zhan glanced at Miss Yangting and waved to Lily. Miss Yangting was scolded and blushed, so she retorted and ran away before the classmate on the bike could react. "What are you doing?" At this moment, Zhou Zhan had already greeted him, and Lily was too embarrassed to pretend not to see it, so she had to pick up something and walk towards him. Zhou Zhan subconsciously reached out to take the thing in her hand. The bag he was carrying. "What did you buy?" His expression was a little serious, unlike his usual carefree look. "Let me take a look." In fact, the bag Lily was carrying was transparent, and the apricot yellow silk scarf inside could be seen at a glance. However, Zhou Zhan's gesture of checking his bag made Lily feel a little unhappy. He put his hands behind his back. This action, Zhou Zhan's face suddenly darkened. "Xiao Li, you have changed." He shook his head, his expression a little disappointed. "Uncle Li gave you living expenses, not for you to buy these things. There is no need for you to learn what to buy from others, and you still charge it's a gift from others. What do you give in return? We are different from the children in Beijing. As long as we wear warm clothes and have enough food, can we eat these things? Our family conditions are different from others, so you don't have to do everything." Comparing it with others. As soon as Zhou Zhan said these words, Lily remembered that Miss Yangting had sat with Zhou Zhan before, and she must have said something to Zhou Zhan. "What am I comparing myself to? You have to worry about me buying a silk scarf. You are not my dad," Lily sneered, and Zhou Zhan subconsciously said, "I am you." He originally wanted to say that he was Li Beihe's boyfriend, Li's father, and Zhou's father always joked that they would marry Li Beihe to him and become his wife. Zhou Zhan never thought about it this way when he was in junior high school for 3 years. He even vaguely felt that his parents made such a joke when he was young. He didn't think so anymore. Seeing the classmates in the class chattering, making noisy noises, and fighting with the boys in the class, he felt that girls like Li Beihe were pretty good too. Besides, she was pretty, and she would be dignified when brought out. Think about the last time Lily came to see him practice. How many people in the team were envious that he and Lily knew each other. Although Lily did not admit that she was his girlfriend at the time, everyone in the dormitory said that those who are near the water and the towers get the moon first. If he doesn't grasp it well in school, after graduation, many people will chase Lily. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan ERWR. Chapter 1168. With this thought, Zhou Zhan gained some sense of crisis, and then he began to implement the joke that people from both families had said when he was young. But he didn't expect that Lily didn't seem to be any different to him. This week, he went to Lily's class to find her, but she came out every time, but her attitude towards him was no different from before. The girl who followed him and played house with him has changed to this day. Not to mention that Lily's deskmate was still fuying. He always felt flustered. Today during ball practice, he met Miss Yangting, Lily's former deskmate and roommate. The two exchanged a few words, and he inquired about Lily's recent past. After reading the news, I realized that Lily had changed a lot after entering high school. Not only did she become vain, but she also wanted to be friends with Sun Mingming and accepted expensive gifts from others. Zhou Zhan knew the Li family's tutor. If she accepted someone else's things, what would she give as a gift in return? Besides, with a background like that, How could Sun Mingming be friends with Lily? Zhou Zhan always thought that Lily was whimsical. Unexpectedly, after he and Miss Yangting sat here for a while, he saw Lily coming back. Not only did she look like she had been out of school, but she also seemed to have come back from shopping. These things have no effect at all. You can't eat or drink them. It's not easy for Uncle Le to make money. They are not for you to waste casually. What fun is there with Sun Mingming and the others? It won't help your academic performance. Zhou Zhan felt a little disappointed, but when he lowered his head and saw the girl's beautiful face, his heart skipped a beat. He originally wanted to say that she was vain and worshipped money, but the words came to his lips. Swallowed again. Zhou Zhan, what I spent is my own money and has nothing to do with you. Even if my dad thinks I have wasted money, it is our Le family's own business and has nothing to do with you. As for who I want to make friends with, my parents don't care about me, so why do you care about me? The two of them are not a couple like in the plot. After all, they are just neighbors and friends, and Zhou Zhan is too involved. As soon as Lily said this, Zhou Zhan looked shocked. He stared at Lily and pursed his lips. I'm doing this for your own good. That's just what you think. In fact, I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I accept gifts from others and how to return them. These are all my business. If nothing happens, I'm leaving. As he was about to pass Zhou Zhan with his bag, Zhou Zhan looked at her cold face and felt inexplicably panicked. He subconsciously reached out to pull Lily. I didn't mean to make you angry. His face it was a little red and looked at a loss. Among Le Beihi's impressions, Zhou Zhan was the one who left the deepest impression. Apart from his exhausted look later on, his look as if he was disappointed in her, and his silence in which he blamed himself countless times, there was actually something about the time when the two were young. In fact, if there were no events about the two of them dating later, and Zhou Zhan was just regarded as a big brother who lived next to her when she was young, Zhou Zhan was actually pretty good to her. The original owner did not hate him, nor did she blame him. In fact, in her impression I still remember the image of him holding her hand while they were playing house and drinking together. Thinking of this, Lily's face softened a little. I'm not angry. It's just that I bought something. It wasn't stolen or robbed. Zhou Zhan heard that she was not angry, and a smile appeared on his face. I'm not saying you stole things, I just think it's unnecessary. What do you mean is it necessary? I only bought it if I like it. Then you like to play basketball. What size jersey and sneakers did you buy with the living allowance given by Uncle Joe? Did I tell you? Everyone has their own preferences. Le Beihi remembers that Zhou Zhan likes basketball. Boys of his age are obsessed with basketball stars. Zhou Zhan spends money on sports magazines every month, and he also buys shoes worn by some stars. These are not cheap either. It's just because these things don't sound like girls' trinkets, clothes, or bags, that's why Zhou Zhan catches Le Beihi and talks about them every time. This is my hobby. Besides, can physical exercise be the same as your turban-hanging things? The school supports us playing basketball, but we don't support you buying these things, right? Zhou Zhan was accused by Lily, and his face was filled with tears. Somewhat unable to hang on, he pointed at the bag she was carrying and retorted loudly. The sound attracted the attention of the surrounding cyclists, and Lily sneered, why is it different? You can call it sports at best. The school said we should develop our moral, intellectual, physical, and aesthetic abilities in an all-round way. You call basketball physical, how can I do this? It's also called beautiful. She was so sharp-tongued that Zhou Zhan looked a little embarrassed, saying that he had never seen her speak so sharply before, and the two broke up unhappy. Lily didn't want to say more to him. This kind of person is a typical person who only allows state officials to set fires, but doesn't allow people to light lamps. She returned to the dormitory and took out Sun Mingming's skirt. She poured out the scarf and compared the colors. She chose one that had almost no color difference with the skirt. She first hooked two simple cartoon kittens on both sides of the scarf. She was not very good at drawing the image, so she changed it several times. After drawing two kittens, she started to embroider it. Sun Mingming's skirt is simple in style, and the style is more Western than Chinese, so it is not suitable for embroidery. She embroidered a kitten licking her palms, using light blue thread and apricot yellow, which is very fresh and beautiful. Because the style is not, it was so complicated that it took her more than an hour to embroider it. Lily took out Sun Mingming's skirt and cut out the two kittens and silk handkerchiefs she had embroidered. After comparing the sizes, she also cut off both sides of Sun Mingming's skirt. She sewed the two embroidered silk scarves together, and before she could shake them open to take a look, the dormitory door was pushed open. Sun Mingming and others came back. Seeing that Lily was still there, they were stunned for a moment. A man named Zhao Ni, when the girl saw a few rags on Lily's bed, she couldn't help but exclaimed, "Oh my God, Lily, did you cut off Mingming's skirt?" Lily nodded and handed the skirt in her hand to Sun Mingming. "It's changed, let's give it a try." The waist of the skirt was cut open on both sides, replaced with a translucent silk scarf of the same color, and cute kittens were embroidered on it. With such a slight change, the skirt that was originally a bit solemn and boring suddenly becoming playful and lively. Sun Mingming was a little surprised. She originally thought that Lily's skills were not bad, so she thought of giving her a dress modification. She didn't expect her skills to be so good. Not only did she make the changes look better than she expected, but she was also bold and creative. She nodded eagerly, took the skirt and walked to the toilet. When she came out after changing it, everyone's eyes lit up. This color brings out Sun Mingming's fair skin, looming waist, and the girl's youthful and graceful figure. The pattern of two kittens licking her feet visually makes people feel that Sun Mingming's waist is thinner, and she is pure and playful with a bit of sex appeal. It does look better than her original dress. Everyone in the dormitory was full of admiration, and Sun Mingming was reluctant to take it off. "This is prettier than the one my mother bought. I want to go back and show it to her. She praised me for sure. I don't think your craftsmanship is as good as Lily's. The person who made the dress is bad. I want to wear this dress on my 16th birthday." Lily smiled, put the needle and thread into her bag, and picked up the rags. The other people were envious and wanted to ask Lily for help, but before they could say anything, the class bell rang. Sun Mingming stuffed the small insect hairpins he had prepared before into Lily's arms. "This dress has been altered to look even better than I thought. I will bring you a gift next time I go back." She could also tell that Lily probably didn't. The diner felt a little sorry and gave her another bag of snacks. "Next time I invite you to dinner, don't refuse." Recently, two people said they wanted to treat themselves to dinner. Lily couldn't help but laugh. Several girls hurriedly locked the door and ran towards the classroom. Sun Mingming liked the skirt and didn't change it at all. As soon as he entered the classroom, it attracted many people. Watch for the odd looks. In the first period of evening self-study, the teacher first spoke for everyone to review the content of the next class. After outlining the key points of a few questions, he left again. As soon as he left, Lily took out the snacks that Sun Mingming had given her before. She had just torn open the package when Fuying reached out and took a cookie and stuffed it into her mouth. Lily glanced at him, and he chewed twice. "Didn't you eat?" This was a pack of cookies baked after chopping dried mangoes. He swallowed it and reached for it, but didn't stuff it into himself. Instead, he fed Lily's mouth with a natural and affectionate expression. Lily pursed her lips and did not open her mouth to eat. He looked like he suddenly understood. He took the book Lily had placed on the table and stood it up, blocking it in front of the two of them. He lowered his head and said, "Eat." This action was a little too close. She frowned and shook her head to take it. With his free hand, he grabbed a bag of cookies. He looked at Lily and smiled. His head was blocked behind the open English book. This sneaky appearance is simply more eye-catching than an upright appearance. Some people in the front seat have already turned their heads to see what they are doing. Lily forced herself to calm down and reached out to pick up the biscuits, but he did not let go. Instead he grabbed her hand, and when Lily was about to speak, he stuffed the cookie into her mouth. It's drier and a bit hard, so eat less. Fuying saw that Lily had finished eating, and took another piece to feed her, and also ate it himself. The small bag of cookies was quickly eaten, and he was still wrinkled after eating. Eyebrow, looking disgusted. When the English book was put down, many students in the classroom secretly turned to stare at the two of them. It was obvious that the two of them had not done anything yet, but when someone looked at them, even if Lily was calm, she couldn't help it. There was an inexplicable feeling of shame. To be continued. P.S. Second update. The second update is here, and I feel that the third update is not far away, and I am also working hard. Double monthly tickets are available from the 29th to January 7th. Girls who have tickets, please vote for me. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 1169. Miss Yangting in front finally couldn't help but turned around and said, "Can you please be quieter?" She did well in the monthly exam this time, and her position was moved to 2 rows in front of Lily. She could hear the chatter from behind, and she had always been there. He is forcing himself to endure it. When I looked back, I happened to see Lily and Fuying standing with English books, probably eating in the back. The class was very quiet during the evening self-study. The only sound that could be heard was the rustling of books. Although Lily's movements were gentle when she tore open the cookie bag, it was still loud in the classroom. Plus, the two people behind her were hiding. Hidden. Miss Yangting remembered that Lily had been close to Sun Mingming and others in the dormitory recently, and that she was so close to Fuying in the class. There was also Zhou Zhan in another class who was treated like a fool by her, and she remembered the last time she sat in the back. Miss Yangting endured the scene where Fuying didn't give her any face, and finally couldn't bear it anymore. The classroom is a place for learning, not a place for you to make noises. If you don't know how to go out to eat, it will delay other people's learning. She dared to speak, her heart was beating very fast after she finished speaking, and she didn't dare to look at Fuying's face, so she turned her head away as soon as she finished speaking. Miss Yangting's words attracted the attention of the students in the class. Sun Mingming was still immersed in his brand new skirt, but he raised his head after hearing Miss Yangting's words. She heard the sound of Lily eating just now, but she knew why Lily didn't eat tonight. It was all to change her skirt. This Miss Yangting was really annoying. No one else in the class said anything. But she has many opinions. I didn't hear Lily delaying my study. Anyway, it was Miss Yangting who made the noise and made me study, Sun Mingming said loudly. Several of her followers in the dormitory naturally listened to her words, and then shouted, "Yes, you are obviously the noisier." Li Beihai and Fuying were talking and eating in the back, and everyone heard it. I just stopped them. Why did I have a quarrel? Miss Yangting felt aggrieved after hearing Sun Mingming's confusing words. Hong, if you have a good relationship with her, of course you will help her. If you think it's noisy, you can go out. The corridor outside is very quiet, and no one will disturb you when you read and study. Fuying put down the English book in his hand and said calmly, "Don't focus on it in terms of study. I think about targeting others all day long, and I am petty." He usually doesn't talk much in the class. Sometimes when the teacher asks questions by name, he is one of those people who can't raise his hands. When the people in the class hear him speak, they all turn their heads. During the evening self-study period, everyone was studying quietly. The whole class was in a state of excitement. Miss Yangting felt aggrieved and embarrassed at being told such an unceremonious thing by Fuying, and she couldn't help crying. The head teacher in the office opposite heard the commotion in the classroom, and he came in with a stern face. "Why are you making such a fuss?" "That classmate was making a noise in the classroom," Fu Ying complained first, pointing at Miss Yangting. Miss Yangting burst into tears with a wow sound. "It's Li Bei eating snacks during self-study time. I just reminded her pay attention." "Obviously you were the one who made the loud noise first." Sun Mingming also pointed at Miss Yangting. The head teacher's face looked a little ugly. Miss Yangting said loudly, "Teacher, if you don't believe me, you can look in her drawer." I heard the sound of ripping pockets. The classmates in the class were talking to each other, making the other teachers in the opposite office come over to look. The head teacher couldn't help but said, "Okay, Miss Yangting, Li Bei, you all go and stand outside the corridor. Don't disturb other people. Classmates are listening to the class." Lily stood up helplessly. Miss Yangting heard that Lily was made to stand by the teacher. But she clearly didn't do anything, and even though she was wronged, she was also punished and stood outside. The girl's pride couldn't bear it. Crying until the circles around my nose and eyes were a little red. Fu Ying suddenly stood up. I also spoke. I also stood up. As soon as he finished speaking, he put away the textbooks on the table, pushed Lily, and walked out. Before the class teacher could stop him, he had already pulled Lily and stood outside the classroom. When Miss Yangting came out, she stood far away from the two people. The head teacher did not come out again, but started giving lectures. She glanced out the window from time to time. Fu Ying ignored the person next to her who was lowering her head and looking at her toes. Miss Yangting said to Lily, "It's still early, let's go." He dared to run away even if the teacher forced him to stand still. After hearing this, Miss Yangting looked up at him in surprise. Her hand was still holding Lily's hand, and she dragged her downstairs. The two figures ran past the classroom window. The head teacher in the classroom seemed not to have seen them. "Students, turn to page 46 of the textbook, the third question." Lily was pulled out by Fu Ying. It was not completely dark outside, but the street lights around the campus had already begun to light up. The campus was quiet at this moment. Looking up from the playground downstairs, you could see lights in all the classrooms. Lily was pulled out by the helper and ran directly outside the school. The school gate was now closed. Fu Ying went to ask the security guard to open the door. He didn't know what he said to the security guard. The security guard opened the door and let the two of them out. Many shops in front of the school were still open, but there were no delicious restaurants nearby. Fu Ying took Lily into a small restaurant, and Lily, after ordering a set meal, when the waiter turned his attention to Fu Ying, he only asked for a cup of pearl milk tea. "Aren't you hungry?" Lily glanced at him. They were inexplicably familiar with each other. He shook his head, and Lily glanced at him. She even snatched cookies from him even though she wasn't hungry. In the end, she was sued by Miss Yangting. Lily didn't say these words, but Fu Ying curled up the corners of his mouth and said nothing as if he knew what she was thinking. Fu Ying has been sitting at the same table with her for a while. Fu Ying knows that Lily usually doesn't eat snacks. Most of the girls in the class seem to like to bring some snacks and put them in the drawer, but Fu Ying has never seen her eat them. Today, they opened them. If she ate cookies, he guessed that she didn't have dinner. Lily touched her pocket. She was made to stand when she came out. She never thought about skipping class. She didn't bring any money with her. The money was still in the classroom. Fu Ying saw. "Didn't I say I would treat you to dinner last time? In fact, sweet cookies are a snack that girls like to eat, but he doesn't like them very much." At this moment, the creamy taste seems to still linger in his mouth, making Fu Ying wrinkled. Frowning, he poured a glass of lemonade and took a sip, then put it down with a picky look on his face. If he didn't help her eat some cookies, she would probably have to eat them for dinner. He sat opposite Lily and watched the waiter bring the set meal and pearl milk tea. He watched her immersed in eating and couldn't help but take out her mobile phone from her pocket and took 2 pictures. At first, Lily saw that he was sitting well, with a reserved and indifferent expression, so she did not guard against his move. When she heard the sound of taking photos, she looked up and saw that Fuying's phone was still held up. She couldn't hold it back and coughed twice. The rice almost squirted out. She choked on a few grains of rice, her face turned red and her neck was thick from holding it in, and she coughed several times. There was chili in the dish, and it was so uncomfortable to choke now. The chili oil dripped down my throat, as if there was a knife in my throat. Tears flowed out all of a sudden. I couldn't even say anything. He clenched his fist tightly. Fuying saw that she was choking. He held the phone in one hand and pushed the milk tea in front of him towards her. Lily didn't notice that the milk tea was his. At this moment, his throat seemed to be on fire. He couldn't drink it. She couldn't wait to solve the problem and grabbed it and took a big sip. When she swallowed it, she blinked her eyes, coughed twice hard and swallowed the food. Then she glared at Fuying and scolded him, "What are you doing?" Suddenly she took a photo with her mobile phone. Lily stood up and wanted to check his phone. "Why did you take a picture of me?" "Delete it." Fuying raised the phone and leaned back to prevent her from seeing it. He didn't have any talent for taking pictures. In the photo, she was chewing the food and eating it happily. She was not defensive at all, but she was suddenly photographed. In the last photo, she looked up with the food in her mouth and looked surprised. He saw that, couldn't help but laugh. This look is much more interesting than her usual calm and composed look. She is still shouting to delete it. The more Fuying doesn't show it to her, the more Lily wants to see it. The table in the fast food restaurant was not big. When she reached over, Fuying leaned back. Looking from behind, it looked like Lily got up and knocked Fuying down. He quietly put his arms around the girl's waist. "Lily, still unhappy? Delete the photo. Why did you suddenly take a secret photo of me without my consent?" Fuying raised the corner of his mouth. "If it is with your permission, how can it be called a secret photo?" The two were bickering, and the girl's waist was as soft as noodles. He could feel the heat of her skin through a thin layer of white shirt. Lily also quickly discovered that something was wrong with her posture. She sat back down with her hands on the table and stared at him. Fuying reached out and pushed the rice in front of her. "Eat quickly, I won't take care of you anymore." In fact, he didn't do anything scandalous, and it wasn't a big deal if he was photographed. But when he suddenly made such a move, Lily took the chopsticks again and looked at him warily while eating. He really stopped taking it, put the phone away neatly, and instead took milk tea and drank it. Lily came back to her senses and remembered that she had just drank it, but then she thought that it was him who ordered the milk tea, and she had just drank it. He drank his milk tea, and I don't know if he noticed it. The weather has started to get cooler recently, which is fine during the day, but the wind gets stronger in the evening. When the two came out of the fast food restaurant, it was already dark outside, and pop songs were still playing in some stores. Lily pulled the collar of her shirt together as soon as the wind blew. Fuying saw it clearly and stood beside her, blocking most of the wind. "Let's go." "Do you want to chase me?" Lily glanced at him and suddenly spoke. He acted too obviously, and in the impression Fuying was not someone who was so close to his classmates. In the plot, during his first and 2 years in middle school, he had never seen him get so close to anyone. To be honest, Lily suspected that he might be Li Yangzi, and she was not disgusted with him. If Fuying wanted to pursue her, she would not refuse. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 1170. Fuying obviously didn't expect Lily to ask such a direct question. He stared at her for a long time. Lily was also looking back at him, her black and white eyes staring at him steadily. Lily thought about it and didn't want to beat around the bush with him. She knew Li Yangzi's character anyway. If Fu Ying was really him, instead of waiting for him to trick him and finally join him, she would be better off taking the initiative to make things clear. Thinking about it, whether it was when he was in the starry sky or later when he entered the mission and forced himself into desperation, instead of waiting for him to take action like a hunt later, it would be better for him to make a good deal first, at least to take the initiative. There was a look of regret in his eyes, as if he had missed something fun. He reached out and held her hand without letting go. He said nothing, and his attitude was self-evident. When they returned to school, the evening self-study had just ended, and there was noise again in the quiet campus. The two held hands, and Fu Ying walked her back to the dormitory downstairs. The door of the dormitory building was open. Fu Ying loosened his hand and motioned for Lily to go in. The two held hands before, but now they let go, and the remaining warmth in their hands was blown away by the night wind. Lily tightened her hands, waved to him, turned around and ran upstairs. Turning around to look when he did, he was still standing there, with his hands in his pockets, looking at her with a smile. In the night, his shadow was stretched extremely long by the street lights. When he saw Lily turning her head, he didn't move even while he was standing. Lily resisted the urge to turn around and run towards him, and hurried upstairs back to the dormitory. It was not long after class ended, and the classroom was still some time away from the dormitory building. Sun Mingming and others did not come back. Lily took out the key and opened the door, and did not close the door after entering the dormitory. After thinking about it, I ran to the balcony to look. The balcony of their dormitory is facing the door of the dormitory building downstairs. Standing on the balcony, you can have a panoramic view of the scenery downstairs. But when she went out to look, she didn't see Fu Ying again. Probably gone back already. After just standing there for a while, the person was already gone. Lily felt a little disappointed. She glanced several times in a row, but there was no figure to help Ying. She was running very fast. She took her head back from the glass window. Before she could turn her head, a warm body pressed against her back. An arm was around her waist, and he grabbed her shoulder with one hand. He easily pulled her away. She turned around and Lily started. Before she could scream, she had been pushed to the corner of the balcony. The young man's tall and thin body was pressed against hers. He stretched out his hand to block her between himself and the corner of the balcony window, forming a half-hug with her. "Mode," Fu Ying's smiling voice sounded. "What are you looking for? I thought everyone had run away, but unexpectedly he followed me upstairs." Lily's heart almost jumped into her throat, and her body was extremely tense. Only when she heard his voice did she relax. After thinking about it, she became a little angry. "Why did you run up here? You scared me." He curled his lips and smiled. "I came up after you, and you just left when you wanted to. There is an ant guarding the door downstairs in the dormitory." She was clearly staring at Fu Ying when Lily went upstairs. "I don't know how he managed to come up." Lily's heart softened, and before she could speak, she heard the footsteps coming from downstairs of the dormitory. Apparently the students have already finished their evening self-study. The fast runner has returned. Although relationships in high school are not as strict as in junior high school, if a boy breaks into the girls' dormitory, there is still something to be said for him. In addition, the two of them skipped class together, which is the same thing as skipping class with Fu Ying. If someone caught him taking him back to the dormitory to fool around, it would be another matter. Thinking of this, Lily reached out and pushed him. He said hurriedly, "Go back first and I'll tell you tomorrow." Fu Ying stood in front of her. He was obviously thin, but she pushed him several times, but he didn't move at all. Instead, He put his hands on the glass window and stared at her with his head lowered. "What do you want to say to me tomorrow?" At this point, he paused. "Can't you say it now?" Lily shook her head. There were more and more noises downstairs. When more people came back later, he would be easily seen when he wanted to go out. Go back quickly. "We'll talk about it in class tomorrow," he was urged again and stretched out his hand. She let go of Lily and took a step back. Okay, then she originally thought that he was not easy to get rid of, but she didn't expect that he would give up so easily. Lily breathed a sigh of relief and saw that he looked like he was about to leave. "I took a small step to see him off." This man was turning around to leave a moment ago, but as soon as she followed, he immediately turned around, spread out his arms, and Lily plunged into his arms. Fu Ying stretched out his arms and hugged her waist. The waist was soft and slender, like a willow branch. He closed his arms and picked her up like a child, making her back touch the window sill. There was a window outside. Lily's dormitory building is on the 6th floor. Looking down from a high place, Lily instinctively hugged him tightly, exclaiming softly and taking a breath, "Tell me what you want to talk about first." The glass behind him felt pressed by the two people's weight, and the window frame made a click sound, while his upper body fell towards him. Lily's hair stood on end, and she held him tightly with both hands and feet. "Put me down first." Fu Ying looked at her and smiled. He had managed to sneak up to the dormitory building. How could he leave so easily? "Don't make trouble." Seeing that Lily refused to speak, he reached out and touched her creaking nest. With a slight movement of his fingers, Lily couldn't help but struggle. When she struggled, the window shook violently, which startled her, and she hugged him tighter. Tighter. The young girl's body was slightly thin and slender. Seeing whether she was smiling or not, and looking a little angry, Fu Ying's eyes were filled with smiles. "You want to tell me if it's about my girlfriend?" He brought his face closer, and the warm breaths of the two of them intertwined. Lily nodded randomly, fearing that he would lose her grip, and afraid that the glass window would not be able to withstand the torment, and also worried that Sun Mingming and others would come back and see her. She glared at Fu Ying, almost certain that he was Li Yangzi. Even if he had no memory of the past, he was still using various methods in an endless stream. He even came up with such childish and rogue methods. When Lily asked him before, he didn't say anything, so he just waited here. He was very close. When he saw Lily nodding, he took a step back and let go of the arm that was originally holding her waist. She jumped to the ground and her feet hit the floor. She was relieved at the same time, but she was about to get angry. Fu Ying had returned to his previous desolate young appearance, and said goodbye to her. "Then I'll leave first, see you in class tomorrow." After he finished speaking, while Lily was silent, he lowered his head and quickly kissed her forehead, then waved his hand, turned around and walked out of the dormitory, disappearing. She didn't know what method he was going to use to get out. Lily touched her forehead and stood for a while, then turned and stared outside the balcony. About 2 or 3 minutes later, Fu Ying's figure appeared downstairs in the dormitory, looking up and rushing towards him. He waved from upstairs and quickly left the girls' dormitory. When Sun Mingming and others came back, Lily had been sitting on the balcony for a while, and Miss Yangting was not among them. When Sun Mingming saw Lily, he had a somewhat embarrassed look on his face. "I'm sorry, Lily, what happened today has something to do with me today." Lily was also helping her change her dress, so she didn't have dinner. She originally felt embarrassed and gave her a bag of cookies, but she didn't expect that Miss Yangting I reported Lily directly during class, causing her to stand in the corridor as a punishment. "I think the worst thing is Miss Yangting. You can't tell at ordinary times that she is so annoying." Sun Mina snorted. She had a baby face and curled her lips. "You have learned how to complain, don't my face? It must be because before I looked at it, you clearly gave us something but not her, so I feel unbalanced." When a girl of this age doesn't like someone, the most she can do is say it behind his back, but she won't do anything prankish. Lily shook her head. It has nothing to do with you, it's just that I wanted to change my skirt as soon as possible. Speaking of the skirt, Sun Mingming suddenly became excited. Everyone in the class today said that my skirt is beautiful. I will go back and show it to my mother this time. Lily, your craftsmanship is so good. It's great. I really want to do it, thank you. She stood up and spun around in a circle. Her excitement about the dress had not subsided. Several people praised her for a while. Suddenly, Sun Mingming sat over and winked at Lily. What's going on between you and Fu Ying? Originally, if Sun Mingming and others had not inexplicably improved their relationship with Bei, just because of the relationship between Fu Ying and Bei tonight, which would have seemed a bit fishy to anyone with a discerning eye, I am afraid that several girls in the dormitory would have disliked Bei a long time ago. But now the friendship between the two of them has come out of nowhere. Sun Mingming is very fond of Bei. When he looks at the relationship between her and Fu Ying, he feels a little embarrassed. Fu Ying was a big celebrity in number 1 middle school when he was in junior high school. My father, when he sent me to number 1 middle school to meet the principal, he asked me to pay attention. I've never seen him talking to anyone. Are you dating? The girls all stared at Lily with excitement on their faces. Lily nodded, but before she spoke, the girls looked excited and were about to speak. The door to the dormitory was suddenly opened. Miss Yangting, who had a stern face, stood at the door of the dormitory and saw several people talking. At that moment, she was stunned for a moment, and her expression became even more gloomy. Humph, she snorted, her eyes still a little red, and she looked suspiciously around the girls, biting her lip. When Sun Mingming saw her coming in, they curled up their lips and went away, obviously not wanting to talk to her. Lily was still sitting on the edge of the balcony. Miss Yangting changed her shoes and went out to get hot water from a basin. Seeing Lily still sitting on the edge of the balcony without saying a word, she suddenly put the basin in her hand on the table. Throw, are you talking bad about me? A familiar figure standing downstairs in the girls' dormitory outside the window stood for a while and left. It seemed to be Zhou Zhan. But why did Zhou Zhan come to the girls' dormitory? Lily stood up and lay down on the balcony to look. Miss Yangting couldn't help but push her. Speak. To be continued. P.S. First update. Thank you all for your monthly votes in the past 2 days. Now it is doubled. If you have monthly votes, please vote for me. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan ERWR. Chapter 1171. What are you doing? Lily stood up and stared at her coldly. Miss Yangting was startled when she looked at her like this. She was obviously afraid that she would hit her. She quickly took the basin and put it in front of her chest. She looked at Lily with cold eyes and felt a little angry and aggrieved. Tonight you and Fu Ying are eating in the back. Don't think it's great just because Fu Ying helps you. Even if the teacher makes you stand, you will run away. Just because Lily and the others ran away, she was left standing outside the classroom alone. The teachers who came and went stared at her as if she had made some mistake. She was not the one who made the mistake, but she was the only one who was punished in the end. The head teacher clearly saw Fu Ying and the two skipping class, but at the end of the night, he didn't mention it at all. Miss Yangting couldn't help crying when she thought of tonight's incident. After the evening self-study, she lay down in the classroom and happened to meet Zhou Zhan, who came to find Lily. With Zhou Zhan's comfort, she told Zhou Zhan what happened tonight as if she was complaining, and Zhou Zhan sent him away again. Miss Yangting felt better when she came back. But she originally felt that she had been wronged, and when she came back, she saw Lily and Sun Mingming sitting on the balcony chatting happily about something. She remembered that when she sued Lily tonight, Sun Mingming and others teamed up to deal with it. In her own situation, Miss Yangting suddenly felt that these people were talking bad about her. She endured it again and again, but finally couldn't hold it in any longer. These people said bad things about her, but they acted like nothing was wrong. She just pushed Lily, and she seemed to want to eat people. Miss Yangting felt that she could no longer stay in the dormitory. You bullied her too many people. You are crazy, Sun Mingming couldn't help but cursed. It was like poking a hornet's nest. Miss Yangting started to argue loudly, who are you calling crazy? Don't think that your dad has money and power. It's amazing, everyone is born from parents, it's just your virtue. It's you I'm talking about. Are you crazy? We're talking about skirts. When you came back, you said you were speaking ill of you. How happy are you to speak ill of you? Who do you think you are? Sun Mingming has never met him before. Someone had quarreled with her like this before. She was stunned for a moment, and then she came to her senses and started to curse, the whole world is sorry for you. They all say bad things about you. Do you have persecutory delusion? That's a disease. That's it, rule. The two of them were quarreling with each other more and more fiercely. Finally, several girls in the dormitory also joined in. I've already seen that you don't like me, what's wrong? They didn't stop until the lights in the dormitory were about to go out. When the teacher who patrolled the dormitory heard the commotion and came over, he separated the girls who were so noisy that their faces turned red. Miss Yangting hid in her bed. I cried until I was sobbing. Is it annoying? The lights were not turned off at this moment. Sun Mingming shook the quilt in his hand and snorted. The phone rang in the dormitory. A girl reached out to pick it up and handed it to Lily. Lily, it's for you. The call was from Lee's father. Lily answered the phone and asked, Dad, why aren't you asleep yet? What on earth did you do in school? I paid to send you to school so that you can study hard, not for you to find a wild man and follow other people's bad example and be vain, Lee's father said with anger in his voice. He yelled furiously, at a young age, you learn to dress up like a monster from immoral people. Why are you so shameless? What did you buy those silk scarves for? The task of students is to study hard, not fooling around with men. It's not easy for your dad to make money. He wakes up all day long and works in the dark. The family is frugal and frugal. The money saved is given to you. It's good for you. Why don't you buy some scarves? Your mother is not like that at her age. Did it? Lee's father's voice was loud. Through the phone receiver, the phone was buzzing. Those who were close in the dormitory could clearly hear it, and everyone was silent. They could only hear Miss Yangting's cries as she was still gasping for air. Teaching you self-respect and self-love all the time, giving you money to save, you are good, but you can learn as much as you are bad, fooling around with men for no reason, you have looked at other people, and you have forgotten what your own home is like. Come on. Can people in Beijing think highly of your background? Your father is not a rich man, but they are treating you like a shameless woman. You don't have the money to buy what others do, and you are young, so how can you use it? Wearing those. Lily listened quietly to Lee's father's angry voice on the other end of the phone, with a cold expression. Lee's father also said these words in the later period. Not only did he say it, but after knowing that Zhou Zhan was having trouble with Li Beihe over this matter, he said this to her every day. Later, when Zhou Zhan and Li Beihe broke up, Li's father also seemed to he gave up on talking about her, and became angry with Li Beihe from then on. Li Beihe even ignored him. Today I bought a silk scarf and met Zhou Zhan and Miss Yangting when I came back. I think it was Miss Yangting who must have said something to Zhou Zhan. Zhou Zhan called back and told Zhou's father, and Zhou's father told Li's father. So Li's father called to the dormitory at this time. Li Mu's helpless voice sounded on the other end of the phone, okay, I don't know what the matter is, so I'm so angry. If you have something to say, please say it. Get away. Li's mother became Li's father's punching bag at this time, and she didn't bother to scold Lily, It's all your fault. If you didn't dote on her, how could you dote her like this? He cursed for a while, then turned around and said, I will call your class teacher tomorrow. If your grades drop, you will see how I deal with you later. I will only give you 400 yuan for living expenses next month, one day 10 yuan is enough for you to spend. After Li's father finished speaking, he hung up the phone with a bang. Lily. Sun Mingming from the upper bunk called Lily in a low voice. Lily put the phone down and ignored her. She directly put on her shoes, opened the dormitory door first, then walked to Mi Xiangting's bed and she pulled down the mosquito net hanging on the bed. Before Mi Xiangting could recover, she grabbed Mi Xiangting's arm and pulled it hard against the bed. Mi Xiangting was still crying sadly on the bed. She didn't expect Lily to do this. The bed in the school dormitory was a single bed. Lily pulled hard and she was pulled out of the bed, causing pain. Mi Xiangting screamed in pain, and before she could say anything, Lily pushed her out of the door. She came to her senses and shouted, "What are you going to do?" Before she could finish her words, Lily pushed her out of the dormitory door. Outside, he closed the door with a bang, pressed his shoulder against the door panel, locked the lock from the inside, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Open the door, the lights in the dormitory are about to go out now. The teacher has to patrol the room later. If he sees himself still outside, he may be scolded. Mi Xiangting was just pulled off the bed by Lily, her arms and legs she fell in several places, and the pain was severe now. She patted the door panel a few more times, and then Lily sneered a little, "I want you to calm down." "What's wrong?" When several girls in the dormitory saw this scene, they couldn't help asking. Lily stretched out her hand to brush her hair. "It's okay. Mi Xiangting is shameless. She may be interested in Zhou and always looks for me. Asking about Zhou and I are neighbors and grew up together. In order to please Zhou, she always went to Zhou to talk about my affairs and talked nonsense to Zhou. Zhou called me back. At home, my dad just thought I was buying things randomly and said he was going to deduct my living expenses. The original owner didn't have much living expenses, but in this day and age, if you want to buy food in the canteen, you have to pay a piece of it, let alone if you want to eat better food. In the past, the girl's family would always have some snacks for 1,000 yuan a month. She would also spend some money on shampoo, soap and various daily necessities every month. Occasionally, she would also have to buy 1 or 2 skirts. With the amount of money deducted, according to what Li's father said, eating might be a problem. It's better to find a part-time job by yourself, without spending Li's father's money, than being scolded by Li's father like this. Sun Mingming had heard something just now. When Lily mentioned it, she was also very angry with Mi Xiangting, but she felt more guilty. "The scarf is just the one on my skirt, right? Your dad won't give it to you. What about living expenses? How about I give you money for this dress?" "No need." Lily shook her head. "I'm going out to find a part-time job on the weekend." Sun Mingming was silent for a while, and suddenly his eyes lit up. "My mother has a few friends who are willing to spend money on clothes and jewelry. Lily, you have good taste and good craftsmanship. When I go home next weekend, I will help you ask if any of my mother's friends want their skirts altered. I will collect them for you. Then you can charge whatever you want. I have them altered during my usual breaks. You can also make some money as a subsidy." This is a good idea, but it just makes Sun Mingming more troublesome. When she heard Lily say this, she quickly waved her hand. "Originally, this matter was my fault. It would be best if I could help you." Several people were talking, while Mi Xiangting was still knocking on the door outside. The lights in the dormitory were turned off and everything was quiet. Then I heard the noise here. The teacher who patrolled the dormitory was also a little impatient. Seeing that Mi Xiangting was still outside, he came over to give her a few words. She was crying so much that she couldn't speak clearly. It wasn't until the teacher knocked on the door that someone in the dormitory opened the door and let Miss Yangting in. Miss Yangting couldn't stop crying all night. After her self-study class the next morning, the head teacher called Lily to the office. Last night, Miss Yangting said that you drove her out of the dormitory, right? The head teacher had a headache. He had taught for many years. It was normal for girls to have minor conflicts at this age, but there were very few quarrels in number 1 middle school. Got to be so big. Most of the students in number 1 middle school are quiet and introverted. There was such a big fuss last night that the teacher who patrolled the dormitory called him last night to tell him that Miss Yangting came to the office again this morning and asked to change dormitories. It has been a month since school started, and the accommodation situation for the students living on campus in the class has already been arranged. Where can I find a dormitory for Miss Yangting now? To be continued.